Welcome back to the show. Our next guest grew up in Zimbabwe with one dream: to do humanitarian work with the United Nations. Now, as a young girl, that may have seemed like a far-fetched idea, but after years setting out into the world, she eventually made her dream a reality. She became a senior advisor for gender equality with the UN. Here to discuss her incredible journey detailed in her new memoir, I Am a Girl from Africa, Elizabeth Nyamayaro. Welcome to The Social.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
As are we, Elizabeth. And we want to start with the encounter that inspired your dream of working for the United Nations in the first place. Something happened when you were 8 years old. Can you tell us about this moment and why it ended up being so significant to you?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small African village in Zimbabwe, and I had a beautiful childhood because we lived off our land, we had an abundance of food, and we took care of each other. But then when I turned 8 years old, a severe drought hit our village and literally left us with nothing to eat or drink. And one day I was so weak from hunger that I was unable to move. I collapsed on the ground, and actually in my young mind, I thought I was going to die. But then this incredible thing happened. A fellow African who was a humanitarian with the United Nations found me. She gave me a bowl of porridge and literally saved my life. And I remember from that moment, I thought, gosh, I too want to be just like her, so that maybe one day I can save the lives of others in a similar way that my life had been saved.
Unbelievable. You detail in your memoir, Elizabeth, that your grandmother, who you call Gogo, raised you. But then as you were becoming a teenager, your mother showed up and took you back to be with your father and your siblings. A transition at that age, I can't even believe what that would be like. Tell us a little bit about that situation.
Yeah, it was such a traumatic experience initially, but again, in hindsight, it became one of the greatest things that could have ever happened to me. So at the age of 10, another drought hit my village, and this time my Gogo, my grandmother was raising me, realized that she couldn't take care of me anymore. And I got to meet my parents for the very first time and my siblings. I moved to the city to live with them. And what was really heartbreaking was leaving everything that I've ever known. You know, my village was all I'd ever known since I was a baby. But then in a way, I also realized just how much my parents sacrificed. They had very little, but they were able to raise enough money to send me to school for the first time, which, again, really opened my eyes to what was possible for my life.
And then another huge move. You finally set off to London to pursue your dream of working for the UN. And in the book, you describe a strong sense of culture shock, which makes sense. Tell us about that.
Yes. So this was one of the craziest things I've ever done with my life, to be honest. I had decided in my 20s that I was going to pursue my dream to become a humanitarian against all odds. I decided to go to London. I got off the plane at Heathrow Airport one morning with literally 250 pounds to my name. I didn't know anyone at all in London, no friends or family. And suddenly everything felt and looked different, right? Like the culture was different, the weather was very different. And of course, the biggest shock for me was literally everything fell apart. I ran out of money, I almost became homeless, and I ended up working as a janitor just so that I could stay in the UK. And eventually I persevered and my dream came true. I joined the UN and I became a humanitarian.
Okay, that's the part we definitely want to transition into because it is quite the, I mean, your story is already unbelievable. So when you were arriving in the UK, we understand through your memoir that you literally spent months trying to get on the phone with someone at the UN. You finally landed a job interview. And this is when a person by the name of Dr. Julia Cleaves entered your life. Because while you did not get the position you interviewed for, you did, because you're smart, you clearly said, hey, why don't I offer myself up as a research assistant instead? And in that process, Dr. Julia ended up mentoring you for many, many years before she sadly passed of ovarian cancer in 2007. Let's talk about that relationship with someone who clearly was pivotal in your life. What was that like to have her as a mentor in those early stages of achieving your dream?
Yes, I mean, Dr. Julia Cleaves really reminded me of the truth that one of the biggest things that stand between success and women, and in particular also women of color who look like me, is opportunity. And she gave me that opportunity to pursue my dream. And she not only did that, but she became a mentor. She became a role model. She showed me what it means to be of service to others. And her loss was, her death was not only a loss for me, but it was a loss for the world, because she's a woman who really embodied what it meant to be a humanitarian and to give back. And I'll forever be grateful for everything that she did for me.
Elizabeth, you started working your way up in the UN, and eventually you were tasked with launching a global gender equality movement. So you launched He for She. But you stumped the UN by advocating to include men as part of the solution. Why was that so important to you?
I mean, this is so critical, right? Because for so long, the issue of gender equality has been seen as a woman's issue led by women for women, which has also meant that we're doing all the hard work. And it just, on some level, it's not fair. But again, just from a very fundamental standpoint, it also means progress is very slow because we are not working together as a collective. And I knew that true equality requires all of us working together as one humanity. And also, when you think of the fact that men still hold the majority of power across all levels of society, simply means that they have to be part of the solution so that we don't have to do the work all by ourselves. And so that's why we created He for She, and it really became an overnight success. We saw at least one man in every single country in the world join He for She in just 3 days. And there was 1.2 billion online conversations as well in the first week alone.
Unbelievable. This book is unbelievable because your story sees you go from a starving child to, going to a new country, working as a janitor just to survive, and then finally with you achieving the dream that you set out for as a young person. So, what is it when you look back? I mean, you're still so young, but when you're already looking back at what you've accomplished thus far, what does that feel like for you? And is there another mountain to climb?
There are always mountains to climb, I think, as a humanitarian. But no, I'm filled with so much gratitude. It was everything for me to achieve my dream, because I also knew that achieving my dream would enable me to also contribute towards my own community and also contribute towards my African continent. And so it's just been remarkable, but I'm also here because of so many people, including my own family, who have sacrificed for me to be here. So it's a dream that is also a dream for others. The mountain to climb is that there's still a lot more work that needs to happen in the world. We are far from achieving gender equality, and I'm going to continue working on that until we get closer to where things need to be.
Well, let's stick with that, because reading the crushing statistics throughout the book about gender-based violence, child marriages, and child and maternal mortalities is truly eye-opening and gutting. The book ends with a call to action, though. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, so the call to action is very simple. None of us are too small to make a difference. We all can be part of creating change, because actually change requires all of us. And so the book also includes an appendix which has all the statistics, but also the resources where you can get started if you want to be part of creating a true equal world for all of us. So I wanted this, again, to be something that can inspire more people to be able to be part of creating change.
Unbelievable. Elizabeth, what an absolute honor and pleasure to have you join us on the show today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Elizabeth's book is entitled I Am a Girl from Africa. It is available right now. We'll be right back.